This video is intended to supplement the instructions for use and does not replace them. All binding instructions or training requirements must be followed. Your local Dräger representative can advise you whether the content shown in this video is available in your country. Mentioned trademarks may not be registered in all countries. For further information, please visit dräger.com/trademarks.
In order to ensure that the PSS AirBoss is ready for use and in good operating condition, it's important to check the following components prior to use. We'll begin by removing the cylinder. This will allow us to check the quick connect hand wheel, as well as the cylinder strap, cam lock, and cylinder cradle. We'll make sure that the cylinder strap is undamaged, the cam lock is undamaged and functional, and that there's no damage to the cylinder cradle. We'll next check the harness components, making sure that they're intact, undamaged, and that any buckles or straps are fully extended and functional. We'll also want to check the function of the waist pad, making sure that it pivots and slides correctly. We'll now check the hoses and cables to make sure that they're undamaged and that they're installed in their channels properly. If equipped with a UEBSS or buddy breather, we'll want to make sure that we check that hose as well. We'll also want to make sure that the protective covers are installed on the UEBSS. We'll now check the function of the height adjustment for the back plate to make sure it can be moved into the 3 different positions and that they lock in place correctly. We'll now make sure that the back frame is free of damage. And we can check our buddy lights and sounder to make sure it's free of damage and there's no obstruction. We'll now check over the first stage reducer of the PSS AirBoss. We'll want to check our quick connect hand wheel to make sure it's undamaged and doesn't require any cleaning. We'll also want to check the pivot operation of the first stage reducer. We'll check our hose connections and couplings, as well as staples and screws to make sure they're all intact and free of damage. We'll check our RIC UAC or RIC UAC to make sure it's free of damage. Making sure that the protective covering is in place and undamaged. We'll check our whistle to make sure it's unobstructed. If equipped with a UEBSS, we'll also want to check its connection to the first stage reducer. We'll want to check the LCD screen to make sure it's undamaged and that the protective cover is installed. We'll also want to check our cable connection to the AirBoss Sentinel and our yellow retaining ring. We can also check the sound port to make sure it's unobstructed. This would also be where the tally key goes if using that. We'll make sure our battery pack is installed and free of damage, and that our backup battery is installed and the cap is installed correctly. We'll check our AirBoss Sentinel cable to the pressure module to make sure it's free of damage and connected. We'll also check our high pressure hose connection to the pressure module to make sure it's free of damage, that the staple and screw are also installed. Prior to installing the cylinder into the PSS AirBoss, we'll want to do a visual inspection of our cylinder. We'll check our cylinder shell for any signs of damage, such as cuts, indentations, abrasions, fiber damage, or chemical damage. We'll also want to make sure that all of our labels are legible and intact. Prior to installing, you'll also want to check your cylinder valve hand wheel, as well as your quick connect adapter to make sure it's clean and free of damage. When we're about to install the cylinder, this will also check the function of the quick connect hand wheel. Do up your cam lock and Velcro. Make sure the cylinder is securely installed. We can now check the LDV. We'll want to make sure that the rubber cover is free of damage. We'll check our connector to make sure it's free of damage, as well as the connector O-ring to make sure it's clean and lightly lubricated. We'll check the function of the doffing buttons, as well as our air saver or doffing switch. We can also check the function of our bypass. Make sure that you press it in and lock it. We'll also check our banjo or elbow connection and our hose swivel. We can also check the quick connect coupling to make sure it freely disconnects the LDV and that it reconnects properly. Place the LDV back in its holder. We'll now check the FPS 7000 facepiece. We'll begin by checking the lens or visor for any deep scratches or other damage. We'll make sure our tension frame is installed, free of damage, and tightly secured. We'll make sure the connector port is undamaged and free of obstruction, as well as ensuring that the inhalation valve is installed. We'll check our exhalation valve cover to make sure it's secured in place and undamaged. We'll check our mask body for any damage such as cuts, tears, or drying out. We'll check the head harness to make sure it's undamaged, that it's secured properly, and that the straps move freely. We'll also check our neck strap for any signs of damage. We'll now check inside the mask, making sure that the head-up display is installed and secured properly. We'll also check our inner mask or nose cup for any signs of damage, as well as checking that the control valves are installed properly. We'll now prepare the PSS AirBoss for its functional checks. Because we'll be pressurizing the system, we'll make sure that the bypass on the LDV is closed and that we've pressed our doffing or air saver switch. We'll begin by turning on the AirBoss Sentinel by pressing and holding both buttons. When the unit turns on, sound will be emitted from both the AirBoss Sentinel and rear sounders. The buddy lights will also activate. After the AirBoss Sentinel completes its self-check, different information screens will be shown, such as your battery level. If the battery is low, replace your batteries. You may also see an option to log in with an RFID card, an option to change your cylinder size, or an option to perform a high pressure leak test. To perform a high pressure leak test, press the left button on the Sentinel when the screen is shown. Open your cylinder valve. The whistle will sound briefly. Wait for the pressure to stabilize and then close your cylinder valve. Press the left-hand button on the AirBoss Sentinel to start the test. A progress bar will be shown as the test is being run. If the test fails, remove the unit from service. If the test has been completed successfully, press the left-hand button. The AirBoss Sentinel is now fully started and ready for operation. We'll next check the function of the bypass on the LDV. Press in on the bypass for a short burst. Press in and rotate to lock it into a continuous flow. And switch the bypass back off. We'll now check the functionality of the pass device on the AirBoss Sentinel. We'll have to leave the AirBoss Sentinel stationary for approximately 20 seconds for the pre-alert to start. Once the pre-alert starts, we'll shake the AirBoss Sentinel to make sure that the alarm is canceled. Next, we'll check the full activation of the pass alarm. We'll leave the AirBoss Sentinel stationary for 20 seconds. The pre-alarm will start and sound for another approximately 12 to 13 seconds. The full alarm will activate, and then we'll cancel it by pressing and holding both side buttons. To test the manual activation of your pass alarm, press the yellow button on the AirBoss Sentinel. We'll then cancel the alarm by pressing and holding both side buttons. That completes the function check of the pass device on the AirBoss Sentinel. To test our end of service time indicator or low pressure alarm, we'll first start by closing our cylinder valve. We'll need to slowly depressurize the system and watch for when the low pressure alarm activates. For 2216 PSI systems, this will activate at approximately 34%. For high pressure 4500 PSI systems, this will activate at approximately 31%. Note, while watching your gauge to see the values decrease, you may need to shake the gauge to stop your pre-alert from activating. To depressurize the system, I'm going to use the LDV, I'm going to cover it with my palm and activate it. I'll then slowly move my palm off the LDV connector to allow air to escape and the system to slowly vent. I'll press in on the LDV to activate it and then slowly move my palm away to allow air to escape. I'm going to watch my gauge to make sure that the end of service time indicator activates at the correct pressure. I'll now allow the system to vent completely. Press my two blue buttons on the LDV or my doffing or air saver switch and then return the LDV to its holder. I can then switch off the AirBoss Sentinel by pressing and holding both buttons. This completes the functional check of the PSS AirBoss. Prior to returning the unit to service, verify you have the minimum 90% remaining in your cylinder.